Someone commented on a recent video that they'd like to see me doing a bow that was something other than yew. Well, here we've got some staves that I think we'll use for the next one. Now this is the walnut that was cut down at my brother's place last year, and it's rather interesting because A, it had no heartwood at all, despite being, I can't remember, about 40 odd years old. It's written up on my blog. And secondly, it's bent as a dog's back leg, but it's got a very smooth, clean back. Now this bit particularly is fairly straight, but I mean straight in a sort of lateral sense. It's got a load of back to belly curve. And what does one do with it? Well, that's probably just too much reflex to be good on a bow. You know, I mean, that's ridiculous. It's, I don't know, over a foot of reflex. So do I chop bits in half and splice them back together? Do I make it back to front as deflex and reflex the tips? Do I keep it as a single piece of timber but steam out some of that reflex? It's an interesting proposition. Also factor in that I've never used walnut, and certainly not walnut that's all sapwood. You know, I've used walnut as a timber but not for bow making. It could be interesting. Answers on a postcard to what does Del do with the walnut. Yeah, but that will be giving me something to think about, and as I'm always saying, making a bow is sort of 90% thinking and 10% removing wood. I say lots of things. Thought I'd do a little video on random things like what I'm going to do next and how do I repair my scale that fell off the wall when the last bow broke. This might be interesting to anyone who hasn't seen inside one of these. I've modified the top hook so it fits on a bowstring vaguely like fingers. The other thing is I've painted out the scale, I've painted out the kilogram marks and added big bold black marks for every 10 pounds with nice big blobs at the 100, at the 50, 100 and 150 mark. Where it lands heavily on the floor, it knocks the scale out of trim, and you'll see why when I open it up. This sort of scale's very cheap. You get them off the internet, eBay or what have you. They're sort of effectively fishing scales. And I've had it to bits so many times that the little screws in the side were stripping and getting a bit loose, so I just stuffed in some slightly larger self-tappers. Now, a handy hint for anyone at home: any electrical appliances you're chucking out, dismantle them and keep all the self-tappers. They're very handy. Old ovens and things and what have you. Right, this nut comes off, and the needle itself is on a square shaft with a square socket, so sometimes you can just rotate it 90 degrees and it will be fine. But when that isn't the case, you pull the top off and that's all there is inside effectively. Got two big springs. This is the adjuster for zeroing it, which gives you a fair amount of adjustment. It effectively just, you know, pushes that up and down. But what you've got here is you've got this rack that goes to a cog. See, if you can see the cog in there, but it's all rather sloppy. Then you can see the back of the rack is supposed to sit in that groove, and it barely even meets it at all. So it's easy for it to skip a tooth. I could take the rack out, and solder a bit of plate onto the back of it to make it a bit tighter. I could shim it all out, but to be honest, just being rather loose and rough and ready, it works fine. It's easy enough to move the rack and skip it a tooth or move the needle, but there's very little in it that can't be fiddled and fettled. Or I could actually glue a bit on the back of there with some epoxy and make it a little bit tighter, but a little bit of slop's not a bad thing. This should illustrate how the rack comes out. You can rotate slightly and flip out like that. You can move it up and down, get the correct tooth to engage and put it back. I don't suppose when they manufacture it they bother doing that. They just slap the rack in, put it all together and adjust it on the top screw here, which presumably they've allowed enough movement to get quarter of a rotation on the dial. So it probably isn't that critical. I'm just a bit fussy. I like any adjustment screw to be sitting somewhere near the middle of its travel. But it just goes to show these scales can be stripped down completely. You know, just a couple of screws at the back to take that bit apart. The hardest bit would be unhooking the spring off this rack, which I haven't bothered to do. But I just removed the screw out the bottom. And I'll stick that all back together later on.